All right, I have a 2013 Nissan Sentra, and this transmission is the JF015E. CVT transmission, another name for this is the CVT7. All right, so the problem is with this is when it got hot, it would not shift. Seems like it would not shift at first, and it was not producing any codes, which is very unusual. A little tough to get direction there. So what I wanted to do first is I wanted to run it by my tech service, only because there were no codes present in the engine or the transmission. So what was suggested to do was to check the brake light bulbs, check the wheel sensors, make sure we're getting readings on the primary, secondary speed sensors. You know, just make sure all the inputs to the computer look good. Because their line of thought was it possibly could be a command problem. It's not commanding it to shift, but all that seemed like it looked okay. At that point, I dropped the pan. The pan I have here. And to me, the pan had some metal in it. If you can look at see the magnets here. And this is also the standpipe. So at that point, I figured it's probably something going on inside, not sure what, but at that point we got the okay to pull the transmission out and pull it apart and actually do an overhaul and see what we find. I did find an issue in what I actually did is when I got it apart, I didn't see too much. I have it pretty much together now, I'm just waiting on a valve body. I didn't see too much, so I decided to air check the primary pulley, and that is the one without the huge spring in it. So that, you know, moves up and down fairly simple. And I put it had some oil in there, and so I blew some air through, and seemed like it was leaking more than it should. So I decided to pull that apart, and I believe I found what the problem was, which I'm going to get a little closer and show you guys. I got a whole other pulley set here because I did find a damaged piston as well, and a little bit of a hard time getting it. So in order to get this thing done, I just bought a complete rebuild drop-in set, and what I'm going to do is they don't offer a core. They don't ask for a core, so I'm going to rebuild, because we'll be seeing plenty of these. I'm going to find out how I can get the piston, and I'm going to rebuild that one set, see if I can get a new belt, new piston. I have the seals already, and build that up and put that in stock. All right, so let me get a little closer, and this is these are the old variators here, as they call them. This is the primary, this is the secondary. Get a little closer and show you what I had found, and then we'll just kind of go over the unit and like a highlight video. This has 3 sets of clutches. It has the low brake, it has a high clutch drum and a reverse brake. And I have the big tool here that I use to pull these things apart. I'm going to show you the case. The solenoids on the valve body. This transmission actually eliminated the stepper motor, and now it has a solenoid that handles the changing of the ratios for the pulleys. All right, so let me get a little closer and I'll show you the unit. Okay, so let's start off first with I'll show you what I found, what I believe to be the problem, because again, this unit seemed like it was making a lot of metal, and when I pulled it apart, I really didn't see too much. Okay, so here's the retaining nut, this is opposite thread. I guess it's like an idler gear, and this step faces down. Here's a bearing. Okay, so when I pull this apart, I guess this would be the balance piston here. And let me try to get this thing out. Okay. All right, so when I pull this thing apart, I found this seal. This seal is in pretty bad shape here. Up here, it's screwed up here. And I found this also. This is actually my first time taking one of these apart. So I figured it was maybe some sort of a shim, but when you look at the piston compared to another one that I have, look at the difference of the hole sizes. I mean, it's the same exact thing. If I do that, you can see right through it. Here's the other one. So this thing was running around and is way worn out. And also, if you're gonna work on these, you know, you really should take these apart and clean them, because when, you know, this one was making a little metal, and it was this one here that was the problem, the primary, but a lot of crap gets in these pistons and in these pulleys here, so you really need to keep this stuff clean. Okay, also on the primary, this here is your speed sensor. I'm sorry, this is your exciter ring for your speed sensor, and this one here bolts to the case, the back cover. You want to be very careful with this exciter ring because these tabs can bend easily, and when you if you work on these and put it back together, it's very possible you can have now a primary speed sensor code. All right, so you want to be very careful with that. This is the back cover where the pulleys sit, and there's a shim here, there's a shim here. Okay, the primary speed sensor is there, and the secondary speed sensor is here, and the output speed sensor is in the case, which I'll show you. All right, so you got a couple of rings here. So this is the back cover and the 2 bolts for the primary here. The other one just kind of sits in the case. It's not bolted in there. Here is the belt, and again, you got to look at the arrow. You zip tie it so it doesn't fall apart, and then you got to look at which way the arrow is going and just put it back. You know, make a mark. I made a mark on the back cover here. Again, what I want to try to do is rebuild this set and put it in stock. If I can get a new piston, which shouldn't be a problem, and the sheathing here is very smooth. Has about 90,000 miles on it, the car, so I'm going to see if I can get a new belt too. Alright, so this is the primary. I did not take apart the secondary. This has the big heavy spring in it, but here's the exciter ring for the secondary speed sensor. A friend of mine actually had brought me a set, but these are the springs that are in. These are the springs that are in here. So you got to take the nut off, take the bearing off, and then you use the big puller. My TJ1 puller, this here. And when I took that one apart, that thing, I mean, it can't go any further than everything's confined in here, but made a hell of a pop. And that thing came out. Also, here, you know, again, they changed a little something. The JFO 11E had a bunch of check balls in it, and this has just this in each one to keep that from turning. All right, and here is one of the speed sensors for the secondary, and here is the output speed sensor. I'm going to show you the case now. All right, so this we can put back. Back cover. Okay. All right, so first of all, this is the standpipe. So, you know, when you fill it, you got to wait for the fluid to come out, steady stream here. But if you wanted to drain the unit, this technically is the drain right here. Okay, your pulley's gonna fit back here. You know, I got the drop in ready to go. Cooler return filter goes here. back this out a little bit. Okay, they consider this the auxiliary section of the transmission. So this is your low piston, and then you have your high clutch drum, your reverse brake in there. Differential sits here, the variators come up through, and your pump sits here. Now, on the pump, when you take the pump out, you're going to have this type of seal, and you got to make sure you don't forget to put that back. That goes right in there like that. All right, new one comes in the kit. Also, here we got like an idler gear. All right, this bearing, from what I understand, goes bad. Okay, but also another thing you want to watch out for, I'm assuming they all have them there, is a shim that goes in here, so you don't want to forget to look for that. All right, and then this goes into the torque converter. You got an O-ring here also for the torque converter. Then you have these transfer gears. You want to check your bearings. All right, these are all good. Wasn't really making too much noise, just shifting. Wasn't really shifting. Okay, so let's see, anything else on this case? Case connector sticks up through here. It does have a little, where is it? I don't know if it would be any use. It's pretty far down there, but it has a little filler tube here, but it's easier for us just to fill it from the bottom. You know, it just has, it's not really it's just more of a plug. Yeah, not much of a, it's not dipstick or anything. Okay. Output speed sensor goes right there. Now right here is the pump. All right, the pump has a couple of seals in it. I took these 4 bolts out and I lifted it out. I changed a couple seals in there. And then in here, you have your flow control valve. Okay, that looks like this. And I replaced that because these things are pretty well known to give a lot of problems. You know, watching a YouTube video and some guy taking apart a JFO 11E, you know, this is obviously a big problem. I'm not so sure it was a problem with this one because I found the pulley no good. But it is an issue where it sticks, it'll cause, can cause delayed engagements, can cause ratio codes. So what I do, I got this Transgo flow control valve. It is a drop-in replacement. Thing is a great product. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And this is the bushing. You know, it takes care of the worn bore. And then a piece just goes in. And then your bolt goes on the end. And that's the new flow control valve. So that gets changed. If it has it, it gets changed. Let me just turn my lights back on here. Okay, all right, I just want to get the new pulley set here, and we're just going to look at the clutches, valve body, and I got to run out, and I will be back in a few minutes. Be right back. All right, here is the high clutch drum with the planetary gear set. All right, so we can just take that apart real quick. This actually is the low hub, and there's a little sun gear. You got a washer there. Okay. There is your planetary, little shaft on the inside there, and then your ring gear is part of the high clutch drum, held in with a snap ring. And you have a bearing here. You also are going to have a big bearing around here. Okay, got my washer is there, the bearing race. that is that. This is the reverse brake. This is the low. All right, you have another big washer. I want to show you something that's on this case that I forgot. Okay, this bearing, by the way, goes right in here, like that. And I want to show you this. This pin is for the linkage, and it just kind of sits in there, and it sits just like that. Right, whoops, sorry about that. Let me back out a little bit. Okay. All right, so this, again, this pin sits right here. So you want to be very careful with that, you know, not to lose it, make sure it doesn't kind of hang on to the other part of the case, but it comes in and out very easily, and it's very easily could drop, and maybe you wouldn't notice it. So I just want to make note of that. Okay. And right in here, we have another seal. It goes there, like that. Okay. Here is the reverse piston. All right, and that gets, the apply hole gets lined up with the feed hole here, and then you got a tube that goes in, but this has a tab here, so you really can't, you know, put it together wrong. So that is the reverse brake piston. And then these bolts here are the Torque Plus. So this is a 16. So what I did, I didn't have that particular socket, but I went to Amazon. I have the socket out right now, so. And I went to Amazon and I bought the entire set, I think for $30 it was. And it has all the sockets. Instead of just buying the one, I figure what the heck, buy the whole set. Okay, so that's that. Put that over here. All right, so here is the drop-in ready variator set. All right, the on this particular one, you got on the gear, I want to let you know it's either 29 or 30 teeth. And I have the primary speed sensor in here because I actually had to bend a couple of these tabs back. I figured since, you know, something's going on with those, let me just take a glance at these, and a few of them were bent up. So you kind of straighten them out, and then I put the sensor in here to give it a spin just to make sure nothing is going to hit. And to make sure they all kind of look the same. So this is the complete drop-in set that I get from my supplier. Okay, now the valve body. Being the fact that this has 90,000 miles on it, it was making metal in the trans, as you saw from the pan, and these have problems with solenoids, have problems with bore wear. I elected to get a new valve body from Nissan, and I'm just waiting to hear from them. I don't know if it has to be programmed, if I can just move this, you know, this EEPROM over and everything will be okay. I actually have to call them and ask them. The valve body's going to be here in a couple of days. Had the manager order it, but forgot to have him ask. So I want to identify these solenoids. Okay, so starting with this one here, this is the line pressure solenoid. Give me 1 second here. I don't have these things memorized, so. Okay, so we have the line pressure solenoid. This is the high clutch and reverse brake solenoid. This is the low brake solenoid. Now this one here This is the primary pressure solenoid. So this is the solenoid here that controls the ratio. So they eliminated the, you know, the stepper motor and that ratio control fork that's in the JFO 11Es. All right, we have the secondary pulley pressure sensor and the TCC solenoid. So this is the valve body here, and you got to know what bolts to take out. They have a certain design. You know, of course not all the bolts come out. So what information I have through a seminar that I went to, they show you what bolts to take out. Certain bolts have a design on it, a marking on it, and certain ones don't. So that's how you determine which ones come out, and that comes from this. This is my seminar book here. So it tells you, you know, which bolts to take out. A little bit of information, not much, but unit really is not that bad to do. Okay, here is the new filter. And of course, you got to be careful with the fluid, the CVT fluid. Now, when you put these heads, when you put this unit together, because of the high pressure, they don't really want you to use the conventional silicone. So I have this here, this Loctite 515, and I called a friend of mine, and he has the Loctite 518. So I'm gonna probably start with this, and this little tube I got from Parts Authority is about 20 bucks. And I think you would get probably the same stuff from the dealer. The dealer calls it, I think, a pink flange sealant. But then they gave us a number. I don't remember what the number was. We called Parts Authority, and they were able to cross it to this. So this 515 is probably okay. And then they have the little bit of a higher number, and I think the little higher number is more red in color, and that is 518. So I'm going to use this because we have this, and I'm going to switch over to the other one. I mean, it should be okay. I don't see a problem there. And here is the final drive. Bearings are good. I like to check in here also on, not really with this one, but you know, the axle housing, the housing could wear. I've seen that before. Not on this one. Again, it's my first one, but on other ones I've seen it. Here is the cooler return filter. Right here is the linkage that I pull out to get the unit apart. And that pin that I showed you, it goes right in this slot right there. All right, so I guess that's about it on this JFO 15E out of a 2013 Nissan Sentra. Again, the problem was when it got hot, we had a no shift condition. No codes, engine or trans, but I did find an issue in the primary pulley. And also speaking to ATSG, I actually spoke to one of the big guys over there, Wayne. He actually was telling me this one has an additional set of clutches where mostly the CVTs would have a clutch for forward, have one for reverse. But he said this actually makes a 1-2 shift, and then the variators take over from there. But I guess if it's losing pressure and making metal, you know, but this totally did not shift out at first when it got hot. We drove it back from the wholesale account halfway back, it stopped shifting. And everybody that I talked to was really, really surprised it did not flag a code, but it did not because we kept checking. So that's about it for this one, my first CVT. And I'm sure there will be many, many more to come. It's a pretty popular unit. We do get a lot of calls on Nissans. So as I get more, I'm definitely going to keep on filming them. So I thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and we will see you next one.